Hey friends, welcome back to another episode Alive and Well-ish. um, wait, is this the intro or are we just saying hi?
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah. So this is technically episode 3, which, all right, we did not plan on doing weekly episodes. So the trick here is set the bar real low, and
Yeah.
then you, and then you
You
surprise
feel,
yourself.
yeah, you feel super accomplished. So like we're gonna get this out tomorrow, Monday,
Hopefully.
hopefully, Tuesday at the latest, maybe. And then yeah, it'll be good.
Um,
Feeling good.
so how you doing, friend?
Don't ask me that. I'll throw up. Or I might cry. I don't know.
Well, so I think in our first episode, or even when we were thinking about, naming this Alive and Wellish, it's because there's some days we are crushing it, and
Yeah.
then there's some days where we are not well. And I have not been well this week. How are you?
There's days where it's crushing us,
It's
and that's been, I think, the theme of this week. Well, we'll just get into it. I just recently diagnosed myself with PMDD. Okay. I did. Google says it's usually self-diagnosable. And I've never had experience with like hormones like this. So I don't know if it's common when you get into your 30s. I see a lot of 30-year-old, like 30 women in their 30s, whatever, talk about it. But oh my goodness, the week before my period,
dude.
I'm I'm dying. Everyone hates me. Literally, no one loves me on the week before my period. It's bad.
Yeah.
I'm in the depths of despair, can barely get out of my bed. I do because I have to, but like if I didn't have kids, I don't think I would. It's so bad. And then literally when my period starts, I'm I'm fine.
I'm a human.
It's so weird. Like by day 2, I'm like, oh, I'm literally fine. Like I'll have lots of red meat, well, the first couple
Mhm.
days, and then I'm good to go. It's
So for
actually
anyone who doesn't know, PMDD stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder.
yeah.
Okay, so it's premenstrual, so right about a weekish. Everyone's a little different, but
Yeah.
before your period starts, it's like it's just a beast, and I
It's
struggled with
like
it
PMS,
really bad.
super like on steroids.
On steroids,
Yeah.
100%, cracked out.
Yeah.
Mine was really bad postpartum with Elliot. I even had therapist friends who would even just watch my Instagram stories and see
And
my
they'd be like,
cycles. They diagnosed me via
they watched
Instagram.
the decline of Larissa every month.
Literally the darkest times in my life. Like I could cry talking about it. Just some of the text messages I would send some of my friends because when you're postpartum and I'm not even talking freshly postpartum. It was
No,
about a year-ish postpartum. Like your hormones are still
I'm
whack.
like 16 months
Yeah. And
postpartum. Yeah.
yeah, so it was that, and it was just oh my God, the amount of tears could float Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
Like, and just some really dark, scary, scary, scary thoughts. So I'm sorry you're dealing with that this week, my friend.
Yeah. It's crazy, especially because like if you don't know, hi, I was a surrogate and I delivered a surrogate baby about 16 months ago, I think now. And what is it? Oh, yesterday was actually 16 months. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, oh my gosh, I've never had. So I wasn't sure for a while if it was because of the IVF medication, because it's a
Mhm.
lot of meds. It's a lot of like whatever artificial hormones, and all of that stuff. And then obviously regular postpartum stuff on top of that. So crazy, crazy, crazy. But yeah, I mean, at least I know. Because so it was so bad a few days ago, and my period actually came early this month. So it was so bad for a few days that I was like, my period's not due for another week or something like that. There's no
Mhm.
way that it's related to my period. And then my period started like 3 days early. And I was
Oh
like,
shit.
okay, so this makes sense. Because in my head, I was like, there's no way I'm feeling this bad this early, before my period. It has to be something else. But like circumstantially, there's a lot of stressors in my life, like buying a
Yeah.
house, like all this stuff, my husband working a lot. But nothing, like all my core things are really good. You know what I mean? Everything's like
Mhm.
stable,
Yeah.
marriage, kids, everything. So I was struggling. And then my period came and I was like, okay.
You know what I love, which I think is so funny, is for so long, us as women, I feel in the world, we'd get so mad at everyone blaming everything on our period, right? Or things like that. Rightfully so, because it's annoying, right? If
Hmm.
a man is oh, it must be that time of the month or whatever. But
Yeah.
if we get really into it, it's real.
But you know what? I think
It's
that it
not an
has to do with tone.
excuse.
It has to do with like the way that it's
Yes,
delivered and
that's so
tact.
true.
Because my husband, anytime he brings it up, I never feel defensive because I know he's doing it with love and compassion and he knows. He's like,
That's true. I
Okay.
mean, we could do a whole damn episode on this because I am super into like the phases of our cycle and the differences it makes in
Hmm.
our energy, our mental health. And if you are somebody, and not a professional, but just having gone through it, personal experience, conversations, research, all those kinds of things, reach out to a professional, right? If you want to have these kinds of like deep conversations, but there can be a light at the end of the tunnel. Like
Yeah.
it's a whole thing of like balancing our hormones, and that is like a whole rabbit trail we could get on another time. Um, so it doesn't necessarily have to be forever, but if you are struggling with that, we see you, we feel you, we will cry with you.
You know what I was thinking too? It's also such a privilege because I come from super like I don't really know like poor poverty, right? Like poverty. And so it really is also such a privilege to even be able to be mindful of it and to know
Yeah,
that, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I feel like finally at this age, I've been with my husband for 6 years and like I have a space in which I'm able to even be like, oh, what's wrong with me versus like
right.
in survival mode constantly, like
Yeah,
not knowing if the bills are going to be paid or if we have this or if we have that. You know what I'm saying? So like
yeah.
it just makes me like, oh, my heart, my empath heart for like the generations before us that did not have that are just like struggling to like make ends meet or struggling to do whatever. Because
Yeah.
especially as women, you didn't have that. You just had to like suck it up and keep going and suck it
Yeah.
up
And there's
and
still times that we do, you know what I mean?
for
Like just
sure.
depending on what it is. Um, but yeah. I was gonna say something and it literally just left my brain.
I'm
Left
just
my
trying not to
brain.
cry.
My nose
This
has burned 3 times already.
this this episode is brought to you by my period. So I'm like over here like, if you see me doing this, try not to. I don't have a tick or like, Tress. I'm just
So
like,
this week, and if you're anybody who follows me on Instagram, you saw this saga. But literally, I came on my Instagram stories on, I think it was like Friday, no, Thursday. I don't know, one of the days. Yeah, it was on Thursday. And I started just to talk to my Instagram stories for how everything was fine. Like I was not upset. I was not sad. I had a great day. And I just came to talk and I was like, just trying to connect on, we had like a meeting at the school for one of my daughters and everything went well. Everything was fine. It was a positive meeting. But like I came on to share how like why motherhood is so hard or parenthood in general is because like we spend our whole lives trying to take care of ourselves and then all of a sudden we also have to take care of more human beings and we are one person, right? Anyway, point being, in saying this, I think I was like 7 words out and my nose is burning and I'm tearing up and I was like, what the heck? And then the next day, I was watching Dancing with the Stars, which I've never watched. I think they have like 23 seasons or something. I just started watching this season because I don't know, my friend and I were talking about it. Anna Delvey, do you know who Anna Delvey is?
I do. That's so
She
funny.
was on it. So I was
Yeah,
like, I have to see this dumpster fire. Let's
that's
go.
so funny.
So anyway, I started watching it. And the other day on Friday, it was dedication night.
Hmm.
My God, I'm like literally what dedication night for anyone who doesn't know is each person dedicates the song and dance to someone in their life. And it does, I can't even talk about it. It does this. Stop laughing at me. Because before it goes on, it cuts to the story. And then it's
Yeah.
like somebody talking about their mom who gave up everything for them.
No,
Oh my God. Dwight Howard, a basketball player, dedicated it to his kids. I
no.
couldn't, oh my God. I was
The background
literally
music is enough to make me start crying.
a montage, put sad or like emotional music to everything or anything, and I am done.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like tearing up. So anyway, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like Larissa. And they're none of them are even sad tears. It's just
No,
like my
just
eyeballs.
tears.
So I open up my period app and I was on like day 2 or 3 of my luteal phase. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
okay, that checks out. Cool.
yeah. I was reading too, because I'm like in it a little bit, but not enough to like, help other people with it. But I'm like
Hmm.
looking into it and reading about it and stuff. And I was reading that some people have like a different experiences with it. And I don't know why or whatever, maybe but just like even where some people, when they're ovulating, feel great and like feel phenomenal or whatever, some
Yeah.
people feel like angry or like too much or like too aggressive or too whatever. And I don't know if that's maybe an imbalance of hormones or if it's just different for everyone, but that's crazy. I feel great whenever I'm ovulating. I feel like I am the hottest thing in the world. Everybody wants me. Everyone loves me. Like, yes, I'll be on the front of that magazine if you need. If I
I
must.
am I am
I'm
amazing.
beauty. I literally am every month. And then like it immediately it's like
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so ugly.
It is different. And you know what? I'm not going to educate on this right now because I still have a lot of
Still learning.
learning to do. But it's so funny because like literally about a year ago when I was going through this massive identity crisis in my career, in a company I was partnered with, all these things, right? I was like, I don't want to be in fitness anymore. I was like, I want to be in wellness. I want to help women. I want to focus on hormones. I bought this course.
Oh yeah, you told me.
Yeah, it was like $500 or something. And it's amazing. Fully believe in it. Do we think I've taken the time to do it yet? Do we? Do we think
Don't
I've
ask me.
done
Don't
more
ask
than
me how many things that have gone to die in my brain, like in the graveyard of things I'm gonna do.
Do you know why I said I needed a walking pad? In May, by the way, I got a walking pad in May for my birthday. And I was like, it's because I really want to do this course I bought 9 months ago. And if I have a walking pad, I can watch the videos while I'm exercising and that'll make me get it done.
That's
Do
the
we think I've
ADHD.
started it yet? No.
That's
But
the
I'm going
ADHD.
to. And you know what? I'm going to come on here and we'll have a guest and we will educate the women on
Yeah.
our
I'd love to have
cycles.
someone who's more knowledgeable about it. So if you know someone, if you're listening to this and you're
Oh
like,
my
oh,
gosh, yeah.
perfect person.
I know a lot
We
of
want
people
them.
actually. I have a lot of friends who are certified through that sync course that I bought that I need to
That's
do.
amazing.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the course, you can get somebody on the podcast.
Tell me why.
You're like, give me the Cliff Notes. I'm a Cliff Notes girly. You know what I mean? Like, give me the gist of it. I just need to know.
It depends on what it is. It's like I'm either a Cliff Notes girly or I'm like, send me down the rabbit hole and see you in 3 days.
See, that's
Like,
so funny because 9 times out of 10, this is the problem. And I don't really like necessarily believe your astrological sign really determines everything, but I do see that obviously like there's a lot of people resonate with theirs, right? For different reasons. And so I'm a Libra. And so I'm very much like, I can see both sides of everything. You can tell me this bit of information. I'm like, that makes sense. And then you can tell me, like, I'm not kidding. You can tell me that we didn't land on the moon. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It's so bad. And I'm like, I can laugh at myself about it. But like, there's really not a conspiracy theory that you could bring to me that I'm not like,
oh, same. 100% same.
I understand where you could get that. It's so, and it actually makes parenting so hard for me sometimes because like I'll have to referee with my kids and I'm like, but you shouldn't have said that. Yeah, but you also have a point. Like,
I know.
that's like the gray area that we talked about.
My kids even do that to me. Like I'll say something to them and they're like, but like in a different situation, you said this. And I was like, oh,
like,
you got me.
Right.
You are right. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a Gemini and
Mm-hmm.
it's funny because like I've not gone down that rabbit hole enough,
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you're like super into all this stuff and you're like, these girls sound like idiots, that's fine.
That's
but I am
It's 'cause I'm a Libra.
convinced I am convinced I have like two completely different personalities because I am like the empath in the world. And then I'm also like I hate everybody, don't ever talk to me. And like, how do those coexist? I'm not really sure.
Two faces. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and there's so many instances too, where like situations like that happen. Like even like the Enneagram. Okay. So
Yeah.
every single time I've taken the test, even if they're like different tests with different questions,
Mhm.
it's never the same. It's always the same two of them.
That makes sense.
One of them is a 2, which is the empath, emotional, the helper, the like, you know what I mean? And I'm that to a T, like completely, right? And it like 2s get resentful if they feel like people are taking advantage of their help and all the things like that. Like that's me, an unhealthy 2. But the other one is also a 7, which is like the adventurer and the like spontaneous go on adventures and things like that, which is so me sometimes.
Yeah.
But then I'm also like super introverted and never want to go anywhere. So like
maybe it depends on the part of your cycle that you're in.
Maybe.
Mine is a 5, and I agree with that. I am so much like, give me all the knowledge. I want to know all of it, but like I'm rarely going to do anything with it. I'm curious, and it actually keeps me. The 5 is like the learner. I
think that's what Jason is.
Yeah, we talked about that before. Yeah, and it's what's so funny is that most of my friends that I'm really, really close with, like soul tie type friends, I am like their partners. Like a lot of my friends, I'm so serious. Like I have actually like my best friend, her partner, I believe, is a Libra. And then one of my other really, really close friends, her husband is a Libra. And then like a lot of the people that I vibe with are like the opposite signs, or like the signs that like I mesh with. You're a Gemini. My brother is a Gemini. My
Ooh,
mom
makes
is a Gemini.
sense.
Sean is a Sagittarius. One of my really, really good friends is a Sagittarius. They're like all, it's crazy.
Do you know
It's crazy.
Sean's Enneagram?
I don't.
He's
I
probably
don't.
a seven.
I was
He's
thinking that.
probably
Like
a
immediately
seven.
when I was looking at all the things, I think that he's a seven. Like I don't know if he'd ever actually sit down and do it, but I could see him being a seven. He is the most adventurous, go with the flow.
Yeah.
Even today. And sometimes though, it's like to our detriment. Like even just now
He's
before
like
the
a
podcast
golden
started,
retriever.
he was trying to, we were, first off, we were going to do this way earlier this morning. Okay. We didn't. That's fine. Then we were going to do it at noon. And so then at like 12:07, he's still outside trying to figure something out in the garage with the electrical, whatever. And so I'm like, waiting. He comes in with like these two big poles. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like going to try to set up a backdrop for me before we started. And I was like, I just need you to get the
Okay,
kids
that's
and go.
so
No, it's
cute
so sweet.
though.
But this is why we have good communication. Cause I was like, I just need you to, he was like, sorry, I was just trying to help. And I was like, but listen, but like, you can't do that right now because like you wanting to help, here's how you can help me. And you don't ever have to wonder how you can help me because I'm telling you, here's how you can help me. Get the kids and go. Like, I just need you to and we can worry about this backdrop for the next time. So the
Yeah.
next time, if you see a backdrop, it'll be courtesy of my husband. But like me, who I am as a person, and if any of my friends or family are like around me and my husband, they really think that it really probably comes off like I am like, it's like snappy or rude. I'm able
I've
to
never
be
gotten that.
yeah, I'm just able to be heard by him without him thinking that I'm being rude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he's like, "Oh, okay, sorry, I was just trying to help." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no, understood. That's not helpful though. Here's what's helpful." Like I can tell you, and I tell my kids the same thing. I can tell
Yeah.
you how to be helpful if you'll listen. Because like I don't expect you to read my mind. Like if I need you to do
Oh
this,
yeah.
see
That was one of
this.
my unhealthiest traits for a long time before Jason and I effectively communicated. Same with my
Yeah.
kids. Like and I still sometimes have to remind myself that like nobody can read your mind, Larissa. Nobody can read your mind. But then when I speak, I cry. So
They're like, we also can't hear you though because you're
I
crying.
know.
So if we can figure out a happy
Why
medium here.
why is that? Is anybody else like that? Like I'm a verbal processor through and through. And because of that, I'm also like a steel trap. So, and I think that's very common of people who are verbal processors or steel traps and keep everything inside. And over the years, I've learned to, speak and communicate and things like that. But literally, like as I talk things out, and talk things through, it's like that's when they become real,
Yeah.
But then but then that really makes so much sense of how keeping so much in just literally poisons you from the inside out, Like it's wild.
Yeah, I don't know if it was, I don't know if I saw it, read it, what it was, but like thinking about that before getting with my husband, whenever I was like, I had left my ex, whatever, I was like single for a while. And like, I read something, I'm sure it was, that was just talking about how keeping it in your head or keeping it in your brain or in your heart or inside yourself, basically to save the peace. What is that? It's like to keep the peace on the outside, you know what I mean? But it like
Yeah.
causes a war inside. And so like
Yeah.
I am almost to the point of where I have to remind myself that not every thought has to be said because like
Right.
I went the other, like the opposite spectrum of it where I'm like, I'm going to say every single thing. And now I'm
Oh
like, okay,
yeah.
wait, they don't have to know.
What's that thing of like, is it helpful? Is it true? Is it kind?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I don't even know. I know it's a saying. If
I'm
you
gonna Google
really
it.
like, yeah, if you like butchered quotes, please follow this podcast for more. But yeah, no, that's something I ask the kids a lot. I'm like, are you being helpful? Are you being kind? You know what I mean? Like,
Here it is. You ready? It's called Think.
oh
So
yeah,
THINK. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary?
that's a good
And
one.
is it kind? I should
That's
teach
the
my
hard
kids
part
that.
because yeah, you should put that in the hot topics, pod topics chat. I
Yeah.
really like that because I definitely need to go through that with my kids. The necessary part is what's hard for me. I struggle.
Right.
There are
Because,
literally
yeah.
sometimes it's not, and I'm like, ugh. But I feel like everyone needs to know. And I'm sure, is it the trauma? It's probably the trauma where I'm like, I want them to know though why I'm like this. And not everyone needs
Well,
to know.
yeah. One of my biggest things is, and I have a couple friends who've had these conversations with too, and they're very similar, is like, I don't know if it's like a fear or a trauma or if it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's like the fear of like being misunderstood. And that's why I feel
Right.
like we over explain so many things. And like
Hmm.
even in the first episode, had a friend, Ashley, who messaged us after listening to our first episode where we on repeat over explain ourselves of how like we might sound judgy, but we're not judging you or this or this. And the way she put it, I loved how she put it. She said something about like, I know what you mean about having opinions and being opinionated, but not judgmental. And
Hmm.
I think that we over explain those things so much because it's like, I just want you to understand where I'm coming from because both of us too, I feel like really want to understand where people are coming from as well, because that's how so many thoughts and feelings can be misconstrued. And so
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think I went the opposite way too. I'm just like, now we just over explain everything. Like, I want you to know the deepest depths of my soul.
Yeah, that's what in my head I'm like looking kind of like just trying to like encourage myself all the time to like go to maybe the middle ground of like, you know what I mean? Like if somebody, you just have to be mindful and like you really have to be aware of like who is just committed to misunderstanding you or you know what I'm saying? And so like when you get into a space like this where there's anybody can watch this, anybody can listen to this, and anybody can form their own opinions. And so you kind of have to like just let go of that control or let go of that like power of like really having those back and forth conversations because we're never going to be able to. There's going to be people on the other end of this listening that have questions, have whatever that they might never ask, and they might have these opinions formed of us, and we never get to prove them wrong or prove them right. Like
And
that
it's
is
not our
just
business either. Like
exactly. It just is what it is.
what people think of you is none of your business.
Yeah. And
And that's
so,
something I need to remember.
yeah, that's my favorite thing. And yeah, I like that. I appreciate that all the time. I tell my kids that too. Like if someone doesn't like you, like if you are coming to them and you're being kind or at least considerate, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like civil, you're not trying to be a mean person and they still don't like you. Like that's probably something that has to do with them or something, you know, their own experiences or whatever. And that's okay. Not everybody has to like you, which is hard when you're growing up, but
It's yeah, I mean, I think even as adults in our 30s, like we still, and again, I flip flop back and forth. Like, catch me on the day, you know? And it just
yeah, for real.
one minute I'm like, I don't need you. And the next time, like, please love me.
You're
Are you
like, why
mad
does
at
no one
me?
like me? Yeah.
Like, you're standing a little far. Do you hate me?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, Jason, love that man to death. And we've been together for, oh my gosh, next week it's 12 years that we've been together.
It's insane.
And one of the hardest parts I had when we started dating was his text message punctuation.
Hmm.
And to this day, we've been married for almost 10 years. And like sometimes when he texts me and there's just like a lot of periods or like lack of something, I'm like, do you still love me? Are we good? And like
He's like, what? I really do not like texting so much because of that. Like it's especially for an overthinker, it's like our
oh my
worst
God.
nightmare.
Yeah.
It's
And
exhausting.
it's funny though, because now if he throws in an exclamation point or we've started sending like gifts to each other sometimes, I'm like, oh my God, we are so in love.
No, you're like, you're obsessed with me. And he's like, I literally put that there so that he wouldn't cry.
I literally think that he does. Like he's just, 10 years later, he's catching on. But
I
for
love it.
so long though, even like, and again, we are of the millennial generation
Right.
where we were pretty damn young when we got cell phones and technology and all those kinds of things, right? Literally up until I think like maybe not last year, maybe the year before. But in the last couple of years, I would always put an exclamation point after everyone's name in my contacts. So like
Yep.
90% of the contacts in my phone. And then the other day I added a new like phone number for a parent or something. And I was like, oh my God, look at me. I put the last name in the last name column and there's no exclamation point. Like
You're growing up.
I'm an adult.
That's crazy. Everybody on mine still have whatever it's called, emojis and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, you have an emoji. Jason has like 18 emojis that I put on his name like 12 years ago when we started dating.
I love it. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, I was looking at pod topics. I was looking at things that we've put on here.
Thanks, everybody for attending our therapy session because it has been a rough week for us. And
Honestly, this is a mental health podcast. Stop.
oh, we've only
Okay.
almost cried 3 times.
We have on here our husbands, like talking about dynamics,
Oh my
awkward
God.
in front, them being like awkward in front of cameras.
Of how they're so like it's our dynamics are so funny. Like Gabrielle and I would joke about how we like use each other's husbands we're
Oh yeah.
sister wives essentially, and our husbands don't know each other. They've never talked. They've never met. But we've met each other's husbands. So like Gabriella has met Jason, I think once, right? Like
Yeah.
went to an event. And then I have met Sean multiple times. I went to their wedding.
Yeah.
Love like it's just so funny. But we like utilize each other's husband's skill set. We are sister wives. And so like my husband is really, really smart and good and in the industry of like financial planning and like he was a real estate agent and stuff. And so she'll like message me questions like, can you ask Jason this? And then Sean is a genius with contracting and building and like so many things. And then I'll always message her and be like, okay, like we were getting I'm throwing things around. We were getting an addition on our house or like a renovation. And what was I asking you? I was like asking.
You were just like, this doesn't look right. Is this like, you were just sending pictures and stuff. And Sean's like, yeah, they're not done yet. Like they're, or, have them do this if they don't, whatever. And you were just sending like questions. You're like, I don't really know about this. I don't know if I like this.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to look right.
Sean, talk me off a ledge.
Yeah, literally.
So we borrow each other's husbands in that way.
But you know what's crazy though, is that I think Jason is similar, that like being in front of a camera, because when you are with me and my husband in person, like there's no mistaking that he is like in love with me. He will do anything for me. He's so kind. He's so whatever. If I'm talking to the camera and I turn the camera on him, he looks like he's in this relationship with a what to his head. And he's like, he literally looks like I kidnapped him. Like I'm holding him. Right? So he's just like, he gets so nervous. And then like when I turn the camera off, we will start laughing because he's such an awkward turtle. He
oh
just
my God, he's so funny.
No, he is.
He's so funny. My favorite is when we're voice messaging and then he like yells something. What was he yelling in the background? There was like a series of times he would like yell something. Oh, we'll have to remember and visit.
I can't tell you how many times I have restarted voice messages because I'm like, stop talking.
Never do. I want all of it. I want the Sean interruptions. I want it all.
I'm like, get your own friends. And you know what? You saying the thing about like the sister wives thing, it's funny because all of my closest friends are like that with Sean. Like they have their own partners who do have their own skill set, own whatever. But like, even I call her, I'll talk about her a lot. Obviously, Megan, I call her baby mama, who I had a baby for. She like loves Sean and she talks about Sean all the time. So I'm like, I have like 15 sister wives, apparently. Apparently. When I was younger, I don't know about you, but like I always thought, if my boyfriend or if my whatever partner is like not nice to other girls, you know what I mean? Like I liked that like bad boy. I'm like, oh, he only likes me. But like as I'm getting older and a lot more healed, I might say, I love having a partner who is kind, who is thoughtful. Like this morning, for like context, my brother and sister-in-law are basically, my husband's helping them build like a tiny house for them, very close to us. Okay. So we see them every single day. Love that. My husband went to the gas station this morning and he just automatically got like a coffee, like a caffeinated drink for my sister-in-law. Cause she is like 2 months postpartum, she needs all the energy she can get. And it's just like him being thoughtful of like other people, women or men or whatever in our lives. Yeah. I love that. He loves my best friend. He, cares about her, asks questions about whatever. Like he's just thoughtful and considerate. And I love that. I see so many things online where people are like, that's weird. And I just don't think that they can fathom like a healthy relationship or like a healthy like level of adulting, because any of my husband's friends, I'm going to be kind to them. If I'm cooking something, I'm going to offer them. If I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I love the people who my husband loves and then like vice versa, So,
well, I think that just comes down to security in the relationship too. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like what it boils down to. And like why, when we were younger and unhealed, were we so attracted to the toxicity of things? Like literally, it's
let's
just a problem.
I'll just be honest. Like love you, mom. That's all I saw. That's all I saw. That's what I was raised around. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't, and I'm not even going to just say my mom, but like anything I saw, I was never around sets of adults who ever like effectively argued or communicated or disagreed without yelling, without anything, without like very toxic.
Like, it was almost like safe.
That's what it's like you're comfortable in that chaos, but also like legitimately, I did not know the other existed. I watched movies, I watched TV, all of that stuff, but like I don't think as a kid, it like seeped into my brain that that's real. I literally thought it was just the movies. I
Yeah.
literally thought
Well,
like that's just.
even some movies and shows I think could have the opposite of like
Mhm.
actually showing the toxicity. Like, have you been watching Tell Me Lies on Hulu? Oh my God. It's kind of
No, I just
triggering, to
finished
be
that. I just
honest.
finished that one that you told me to watch. The
Oh, Who Wants
Nobody
This?
Wants
Oh,
This. Oh,
nobody
Who
wants
Wants This?
this.
Or
No, nobody
yeah,
wants this. You're right. Oh, so
so
good.
good. I think this is like a TV show podcast now
No,
because we talked about.
I don't read fictional books, guys. I watch TV. All right. It's
I do read books. I go with, I was just telling my sister-in-law this yesterday that like I go through these phases of like, I will read four big books within like a
yeah.
3 day time span. And then like, I won't read for a few weeks and then like, I'll pick up another, I will like voraciously read an 800-page book in just like a couple days. And then like, I won't read again for a while. I love reading. I love it.
I love reading and I do read. I read every day, but it's
You
mostly
read,
like I'm
yeah.
literally reading a Brene Brown book right now.
Personal
Like,
development. I like to listen. I've realized that I
yeah.
like to listen to if it's like inspiring or anything like that, I do not want to sit and read it. I cannot tell you why, but my brain's like, this
Oh
is boring.
yeah. No, everyone is so different. And I think it even like when this huge and I want to say it's like a craze that popped up, but it's not. It's always been a thing. There's always been people that love reading fictional and fantasy
Right.
and like escaping, right? And for
Hmm.
a little bit I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
But I realized everyone's a little different on how they want to escape. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it is with like the fictional books and like all those incredible series that are out right now. And I'm not saying I wouldn't like them. I probably would. But I think it's and from what I'm hearing from my friends is it's like I just love it. Like I escape into this world, into these characters,
Hmm.
these stories. But I am telling you, I get so obsessed with characters, fictional characters. There's actually a song I heard the other day called Fictional Men, and it's all about she's this girl's like literally talking about how she falls in love with fictional men. It's hilarious. Look it up on Spotify. But I get so obsessed even on TV shows and stuff that I grieve
Yeah.
if like the story was over. Like
You
I
like
see
mourn. Yeah.
I can't. And even after like movies or shows end, if I'm like obsessed with a character, I'm like going down the rabbit hole of this actor. I'm like, what have you done with your entire life? Where'd you grow up? Who are your siblings? Like
That's funny.
so I just
I love it.
realized I like to escape. I need like a visual, and I think it's because I grew up
Yeah.
with a TV in my room as a
Oh,
kid.
yeah.
Always. Like I always had a TV in my room. Like it's not very healthy. Don't recommend. I just think that's just like what built my foundation. So
I
anyway.
agree. I was an only child until I was 7 and like I love TV. I don't even like I have to say like you have to just parent each kid individually because I have a few
Mm-hmm.
kids that can 3 kids that can be watch TV all day and I can be like it'll be in the middle of their episode or whatever and I'll be like, "Hey, pause that. We need to whatever," or "Hey, turn it off. We're done." No problem. And then I have 2 kids. If I say that, they're going to cry, scream,
Oh
throw
yeah.
up. It's a whole thing. You know what I'm saying? So like I have to
Yeah.
parent them all differently. But like me growing up, I was fine. I loved TV. I loved movies. I love it. All of that good stuff.
Yeah.
Now I went to sleep watching TV and I never saw a problem with it. I
Same.
still don't because I don't think it affected me. But now as an adult, my room, I don't even like having a TV in our room. My room has to be pitch black, every like curtains drawn, loud fan on, no light, no sound. And
Yeah.
like that's how
When
I
I'm
sleep now.
when I met Jason and I would like, he owned his own house or he had just bought a house when we
Hmm.
met. And I would like go stay over there and stuff and he didn't have a TV in his room. I was like, "What is wrong with you?" Like
You
at this point
psychopath.
I had my own apartment and stuff. And we had a TV in the living room and I had a TV in my bedroom. Like that was just like what you do. Like my parents always had a TV in their bedroom.
Hmm.
And thinking back, I see how unhealthy that is because we would all each just go to our own spaces and like
That's what it is.
it's so yeah. So but literally when I met him, I was like, you just fall asleep in a dark room? I'm sorry. Are you like are you a serial killer? Like
An
but
actual
now
like you're like
yeah.
911.
But now, yeah, we have it. I actually won a small, like, smart TV at a raffle a couple of
Hmm.
years ago. And I was like, what are we going to do with this? And then I think I, got sick, like, really sick for like a week or something. And we ended up putting it in our room because I just like could not get up out of bed. And so now that's like dubbed our like sick TV. So anytime,
Yeah.
like, but yeah, I think our kids don't even know.
So I was just about to say, I'm assuming because this is going to be a funny thing when your kids grow up, and same for like my kids, they grow up and they're going to be like, "Wait, you had a TV in your room?" And their friends are going to be like, "You didn't?" Like
I know.
you know what I'm saying? They're going to be the ones that grow up weird. I will say, our oldest turns 13 tomorrow, and we just renovated his bedroom top to bottom. It's all done. It is so cute,
Are the
and
walls black?
They're actually a really dark charcoal gray. He
Oh my God,
wanted
I
either
love it.
black or dark is what he said. But then we
I
put,
love it.
well, Sean put really big white baseboards on. So it's so pretty. And then like the white trim around the window. Anyway, so cute. I posted like all about it on my TikTok, but he he actually got a monitor from my brother. And I think it's technically a computer monitor, but like we also got him an Xbox for his birthday. And so he he has that in his room and 13. That's the first time. I think that they have them at their mom's house. My stepsons, I think they have a TV in their rooms. I don't know. But like my others don't. Like that's not normal for them because we are very much a family, like the TV's in the living room. You know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
don't like to be separated. Not it wasn't even
Yeah.
like intentional. It's just that we're kind of together. So even right now, when he's in his room right now, he either has both of his brothers in there with him or like
Right.
all three of the three middle kids who are 8, 9, and 9. They're in there with him, like watching him play, talking to him. Like no
Yeah.
matter where we're at, we have a group of us together. I just don't want them to be like, you know what I mean? Like when we're putting the room
Yeah.
together the other day, Sean looked around. He's like, I love this. We're like always like this. If we're in the kitchen, if I'm in the kitchen, there's at least two kids in there with me. If Sean is downstairs working on something, he has at least two or three kids with him. Like, we always have like little ducklings like following us or doing something with us, whatever. Like, and when we're together building the desk, we had three of them in there with us, and the other two were like sleeping or they were off playing a video game together on their Switches. It's just funny. Like, we're always in little groups. Like, it's my favorite thing about being such a big family.
Yeah, I love that. The girls definitely like, even today, like they were playing and we are like separate sometimes, but they're like playing
Mhm.
Barbies or playing like a game and stuff like that. Like it's not like turning on the TV. They did just recently start, Avery just recently discovered, and she's 10 and a half, almost 11. She just recently discovered the world, which is listening to your favorite songs on a speaker while you get shit done. And
Oh,
yeah, her brain has
that's so
exploded.
cute.
Like, yeah, I know. She was like cleaning her room and she's like, "Oh my God, Mom, when I'm listening to music, it goes by so much faster." And I was like, "Girl, you don't even know." So
Yeah,
she's been doing that.
that's so cute. I love
Yeah.
that age.
And I just think like it just makes me think back to like when I was little and I had Now Four, okay, was my favorite CD. And then I had the Backstreet
We're
Boys
so old.
Millennium album. Is that what it was? Millennium? And then
I don't even remember.
Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. Oh my gosh. Door closed,
Mm,
blasting, dancing and singing in my mirror. I think it's
yeah,
what instilled any bit of confidence I had in my life in myself.
I agree. I
So
loved it. God, that was such different. I it makes me feel so old now because now I realize why our parents are like, you guys don't even know. Like when they would see their favorite artist. Like I just saw Christina Aguilera on stage, like on a TikTok or whatever, and I'm like, you guys don't even know, like prime Christina Aguilera. Like I feel so
I
old.
know, I know. And
Ugh.
we're not even that old. That's the
No, we're
thing.
not. We're
We're
not. The
really
other day I
not.
said something and my son was like, one of the 9-year-olds was like, I thought you said you're not old. I was like, I'm not old. I'm only 31, but like I'm older. I was just saying like older than something else. He's like, okay. I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
old. I'm young.
I was talking
Mm.
to did I mention this on the last podcast? I don't know if I did, but my best friend, she's still like one of my absolute best friends. But we met in middle school and we were best friends in middle school. And then we had another friend who it was just like, we hung out a lot, the three of
Mhm.
us. And one of them hasn't been on social media for years. So we just like haven't caught up. And she texted, like started a group chat with us the other day, like on text message, and we were just all catching up. And like she got married and like had a baby and like we're so happy for her and stuff. And we were talking about memories. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys. And I was like, that was um 20 years ago. And I was like, I don't feel old enough to say that was 20 years ago and like remember it so
It's
vividly. Do
so
you know what I
weird.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so weird. When I think about my little brother being born in 2000, I'm like, that was just like 10 years ago, but he's 24. So it's
That
weird. I'm like, how did that happen?
that math
Oh,
doesn't check out.
no, it really doesn't. Anyway, I like the flow of this podcast. I really feel like we're just like actually just we're literally just chatting.
Yeah, I haven't been like sad or anything. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been crying a lot, but I haven't
I
been
was
like
gonna say, you did
sad.
say you were like, let's talk about what's made us cry this week. And I'm like,
None of
I
it's
will say,
sad.
well, mine was sad. We
Yeah,
did lose a really close family friend, my mom's best friend of like 20 years. We lost her this last weekend.
I know.
Oh,
I'm
or
sorry.
last week. I can't even think of like the days are just blip. That is one thing when you turn a certain age. I feel like 25, I was just 25, a few days ago. And I was like, I'm
Yeah,
31. But yeah, no, we just lost her recently and she was so young, so sad. That is
I know.
it's just so weird because it's just so final. And like, it's such a weird time. It makes you like think about everything because you're like, even if I'm not older, that stuff can happen
Yeah.
at any point in time. And it just,
Oh,
it's so sad.
absolutely. And it's such a hard balance of like finding the gratitude almost in it, but then like also not letting like the fear take over. Like it's such a complex like
No, it for
thing.
sure is. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it makes you, especially when you get older and when you are a parent, it makes you look at it from all of the aspects. You're like, her mom has to grieve her, and then her kids have to grieve her, and her partner. You know what I'm saying? Like you're one person, but you're so many people for different people. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's the empath in us because literally one of the things I cried about this week is my mom actually lost a really good friend this week
yeah,
on my mom's birthday. She lost a really I'm
ugh.
see it's making me tear up right now.
No, I
And
know.
like I did not know this woman. I never met this woman.
Right.
All of the things, but like thinking about my mom's sadness
Yeah.
it got me. And I even like I just FaceTimed her to just check on her and make sure she was okay like the day after. And like even just
Yeah.
seeing her open the FaceTime, I started to tear up. And it's like,
No, I
and
know.
that's what's really, really heavy for, empaths or people who feel those feelings really strongly. And, maybe if you're listening to this and you I feel like it's gonna go one way or the other. You're like, oh my God, yes, I know exactly what you mean. Or you're like, okay, that doesn't happen. Like, what's wrong with you or
Right.
what's wrong with me? Like nothing.
Right.
But it's just but yeah, when I said to Gabby, I was like, let's talk about everything we cried about this week, me being like dedication night. And then she's like, oh, I went to a funeral. I was like, okay, well, I'm not sharing shit. You win.
You're like, I haven't cried at all, actually. I've been great.
Everything's great.
Everything's
Everything's great.
great. Yeah. Mine just was like, ugh. I got to see one of my really, really good friends from high school. She was adopted when we were in seventh grade. She was adopted from Africa. And when
Oh
she
my
came
gosh,
over,
that's
she
awesome.
barely spoke English. We just like meshed immediately, like connected and like taught her thing and of course taught her the cuss words in English and like, all the
As
all the
one
fun
does.
stuff that you do when you're a shithead kid in seventh grade. And so it was really, yeah, it was good to get to see her. We both were like, okay, we're not going to start this. We're like, we only see each other when something bad happens. So because she only lives about an hour and a half away. And I'm like, I don't want to start that. We're only 30, 31, 30s. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I don't
I
like
know.
it.
That is one part that's really hard as you like get older. And again, I don't think that stops. Like, it's just like really being mindful about making time. And it is really hard, in our seasons of life when you have little kids and stuff like that. Like it's a lot. But
Yeah.
that's one
I
thing
think
I
about
feel
that too.
like
Cause she was
I
like,
need to be better
she was,
about.
yeah, I agree. Cause my friend was saying like, I need to like see you more. I feel bad, whatever. And I'm like, listen, I understand because I'm in the same position, but like, just so you know, I don't feel that way about you, or I don't feel that way about any of my friends because it's kind of like in the Hunger Games when she's like, whatever. Like, it's like, I am with you. Like, we're in the
Yeah.
same kind of like, right now with like young, parenthood or whatever it is. So
In the
it's a lot.
trenches.
We're literally still in the trenches, even if it's great. It's fun. Well, I mean, also, did I share on last week's podcast? I don't know if it had happened yet, but my 3-year-old broke her pinky.
Oh, I know it had happened, but I don't think you shared about
I
it.
don't know
No.
if I shared about it. Well, I don't even know if I shared about if since we started that our oldest, who's turns 13 tomorrow, broke his jaw. Like, I don't know if I even told that like
How did
recently.
that happen?
He was at school. I literally, when I say this out loud, I'm like, please don't call CPS because I swear to God, like that's my first thought with as a mom with anxiety. I'm like, I swear to God, he was at school in PE. They were playing like sharks and minnows or something. He said, and like someone came to get the ball from him, and just like their head slammed into his jaw, broke it. Not to get graphic, just broke it on this side and on this side where it
On both
impacted.
sides?
Yep, where it impacted, but like they called it a green stick break. He didn't have to have surgery, thankfully. They said like this is the best case like scenario if you're going to break it. It broke like on the inside of this big piece right here, but it never went through, and then he cracked on this side. It looked crazy. He's good now. He was actually just released. He played his last football game before the season ended. So he's good. It's been about a month or so, I don't know. But then right after that, 3-year-old is just running in our room, like nonchalantly trips, falls. When she stood up, her pinky
Oh my God. No.
just she starts screaming. I'm not like I posted this on my Facebook, and one of my friends was like, I can't ever picture you like being like screaming, or like you being like basically like going crazy about it. No, the way that I was running through our house maniacally, like, oh my God, oh my God. And Sean's like, babe, it's okay. Like he picked her up, and Frankie's crying, and I'm just like, Oh God, it was so just
Ugh.
like,
It makes me think of that audio. Brother.
brother, ugh. It was so bad. He literally like picked her up, put her shoes on, took her to the ER. It was like less than 3 minutes, and she just got it casted a few days ago, last, I don't know, Tuesday something. It's been, yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
It's never ending.
Does it ever stop?
No, it doesn't. And then I have somebody who made a really good point to me this week is I was sharing, on my stories about, how hard it is taking care of extra humans and like you take that all on, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like we spend our whole lives learning to take care of ourselves. We probably are still like figuring it out, right? And then you're supposed to help you take on
Them figure it out.
everything your little people have to go through and deal with.
Oh
And
my
like,
God.
that's just a lot. And so I was saying, like, I don't think it ever stops. And somebody messaged me. I'm not going to say who it is, but like they're, older, totally different season of life, adult kids, grandkids, and things like that. And they said yes to this, but then also add aging parents as you get
Mm,
older. And because she's going through a season where her parents are elderly going through health issues and all the things. And it's almost
ugh.
like the cycle like starts over because then it's like your parents almost become your kids.
Yeah.
And that,
What
and even just her saying that, I was like, oh my God,
once a man, twice a baby. Have you ever heard that?
no.
Yeah, that's like a saying just because it's true. Like in all of your lifetimes, it's like you're at one point you're a man or a woman, an adult, but
Adult.
two
Yeah.
times you're a baby. There's when you're born, you become this, and then you go back to that.
And it's so hard
Ugh.
because it's like, what a privilege to have aging parents, right? Like, because so many don't. So it's
Yeah,
like, how do you almost like want, like, not complain about it, but
right.
it's just that's the complexity of being a
You're
human
right.
being is it's like you can feel both things,
Mhm.
duality of emotions, but
Being a
man,
human is hard. That's one of my
it's so
favorite things that my
hard.
my therapist would say. She's like, "So you're just having a hard time being a human," and I'm like,
Is that our next tattoo?
"Yeah." Like, yeah, literally. Don't
Humaning
tempt
is
me.
hard.
Don't. I have tattoos that you've
We
already,
have matching tattoos,
we do.
actually.
Where's yours? Mine is so tiny. I am.
Oh, wait, right there. Yeah.
I am. I love it. I love it so much, actually. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Do you remember that one thing that we talked about, the parenting stuff? Do we have time to talk about that? Like how we learned things as a parent. And I know
Oh
this is
yeah,
like
we got a feedback. Is that no grammar
we
wasn't
got
correct.
we got a feedback.
We got a feedback.
Just one, a singular one. Yeah, we had a friend ask, like, basically if we could just share how we learned the things that we know as parents and the things that we're sharing. And so I I
I
would
have
just
one
say,
word.
what do you?
Trauma.
Yeah, but true, but you have to be able to learn from it. So like a little bit, it's a little bit more than that, but yes, like yes,
Okay, you go. You share your
mine
take on it.
mine is literally just from lived experience. Like
Hmm.
and I will say I'm not like Brene Brown, so I'm not gonna put stuff as eloquently, but like failing, messing up, and then just like making sure that I am being self-aware throughout the entire thing. So when I tell my kids, no, you cannot, whatever, and they look at me and they're questioning me instead of being like uh, authoritarian, like yes, I can be authoritative, whatever, I have boundaries, but like I will stop and I'll be like, wait, why did I say no? Is this,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, why did I do this? Why did I whatever? And like, I am just constantly reflecting and being self-aware when it has, if it's like keeping them safe or whatever, cool. The answer is the answer. But sometimes there are things that as a mom, I can only speak for myself that I'm just like, no, for no reason,
Hmm.
and I have to be
Yeah.
like, "Ugh." So how did I learn this? I did. There's a few books that I've read that I like, but really, I
What
just
books? Which ones would you recommend?
so the Whole Brain Child was like my number one. I think my oldest two biological kids were like 3 and 4 or 2 and 3, something like that. They're close in age. So they were around that area where I was struggling because like I didn't want to, parent exactly the way that I was parented. There's like some things I liked, there's some things that I wanted to do differently. And I didn't know how. You know what I'm saying? Like I just knew that the way
Hmm.
that I was parenting at that time didn't feel good to me. And like I didn't want to go to bed with like a pit in my stomach every single night, feeling like I wasn't doing the right thing. So I don't know how I learned about that book, but The Whole Brain Child is really good about explaining to you how their brains work, like at different ages, like infancy, whatever, toddlerhood, when they're children, like whatever. It's really good and also gives you examples of how to deal with certain things that come up. So that is always the book that my brain just references automatically. There's
Hmm.
also No Drama Discipline. Like that's a really good one. And these ones are specifically for things like when you're kind of having a hard time. But really with anything they're parenting to me. It's like it's learning on the job experience. That is literally
100%.
how I've learned any of this stuff. And then like also being open and sharing my truths with my people who I trust and trying to like pick their brain and like I have different experiences with parenthood than all of my people, but there
Absolutely.
we have the same kind of feelings around it. You know what I mean? Like we all care, we all want the best for our kids. We want to do what's best for our kids and uphold our morals and values and stuff like that. So I think just stay curious and self-aware.
I think self-awareness is huge. And that's something, I mean, for me personally, so the person who gave us this feedback and kind of asked this question does not have children yet. And so she asked from a place of curiosity of like, it actually makes me so happy because we do talk a lot about parenting and our kids and like that
Hmm.
aspect of our life. And it makes me so happy that, somebody who maybe isn't in that stage of life yet listens and she still feels like she can relate to a lot of these things because it's helping give her like insight almost or just like a peek into like the things we talk about or things like that. So she was, and I get it though, because also if you're not in it yet, the thought of all of these things, especially us talking about it 10 years in, can almost feel overwhelming, of it's like, oh my gosh, now I have to think about, having these
Yeah.
talks with my kids or this emotional things and blah, 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 blah. So it can feel really overwhelming. Um, I was going somewhere with that and it totally left
But
my brain.
we didn't think about that until it came up. It
Exactly,
just
exactly. It's so true. So this is what I was saying is I think for me, and we're not experts, okay? We're just going day to day trying to
wing
do the
it.
best that we can and build the best humans that we can emotionally, like physically, all the things, right? To be good humans. Like that's my biggest freaking goal. But the biggest thing I think is self-awareness, but that comes from a lot of personal growth.
Hmm.
And that is not something that was a part of my life until a couple years into parenthood. And I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, with 100% confidence, there are so many things, especially as a new parent, that I said
And
I
did.
wouldn't do and did. And the way I judged people's decisions,
Yeah.
whereas like now 10 years in, I'm doing the exact things that I talked shit about other parents doing because you just don't know till you know? And so I think forgiving yourself along the way, just really
Hmm.
focusing on what you either want to do differently or leaning into people and resources and things like that. And also, same thing of like, you can listen, say you're listening to like an actual parenting podcast with like actual professionals. Okay. It's okay to cherry pick certain things
Hmm.
depending on how you want to like, what you want to infuse into your parenting and things like that. And more than anything for me, especially in these years, and I'm going to get emotional talking about this, is oh my God, hold on. Whew. Okay. So my little brother and I were talking last night. We were talking about our like all positive things about our childhood and memories and things like that. And we moved around a lot as kids. And none of this is put any blame or anything on our parents or decisions or things like that. But this was our experience is around fifth grade was actually like my favorite year of school. Okay. And it was the first year because we had moved a lot. I went to three different schools in fourth grade. And then in fifth grade, we stayed in the same place. I found a really good, solid group of girlfriends and like community and all the things. And it's when I felt like the most stability in my life.
Hmm.
And then in sixth grade, we moved a couple months into the year to a totally different town. And I left everything that made me feel stable. Right. So it's funny because that year in fifth grade, it's where this connects, is when I felt so much more stability and then was kind of ripped out of it. And it started this whole slew of just feeling like I was just kind of being pulled in a thousand different directions in terms of my childhood. You know what I mean? So getting to a point right now where my daughter is in fifth grade is I had a friend recently say, raising a daughter is so healing. And I agree with that. But it's also very, very triggering for me because
Hmm.
I'm able to put myself in her shoes of like my experiences and what I was going through at that age. But it does make me a better parent because I try to think about the things I felt at that age, what I was going through, my perspective of those things. And just, I think having the humility to be able to put yourself in your kid's shoes is huge. Huge, huge, huge. And yes, they're children. Yes, they don't have their frontal lobes fully developed and they're going to make silly decisions and things that feel like the end of the world to them are like literally nothing in the speck of life. But to
Hmm.
them, they're really, really big things. And I think understanding that from putting myself back into my childhood, not to put my trauma onto them, but
Right.
to, you know what I'm saying? So that
Hmm.
was a tangent, but that's something that's really just helped me. And knowing that not your rules are going to contradict themselves 1,000 times, just depending on the
Well,
situation.
that and you saying you brought up something good. I wish, like, if I wish that I could remember who said the things that I remember hearing or reading. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like, wish who it was because it was like a mental health professional. But she was on a podcast talking about how when it is like an actual like scientific thing that when your children reach the ages that you experience certain traumas at, it will bring it up in you automatically without you knowing. It comes up without
100%.
you even realizing it. And so just even having that at the forefront, it makes sense. And a lot of times, like if you were not allowed to be like loud as a child, or if you were not allowed to cry out loud or be like super emotionally, whatever, out loud, then a lot of times, like even just like infancy and like toddlerhood, those things will trigger you so heavily because you just don't really know yet how to respond. So, like, all of this to say that you can read all the books, you can
Hmm.
prepare all you want to. And I've actually already talked to, the girl who sent us in this feedback, but just that you won't know until you do it. And so I'm never somebody that advocates for like have kids or don't have kids because that's such a personal matter.
Yeah.
I will just say if you feel like you want to, but the only reason you're not is because you're scared that you won't do it right, just you're not going to do it right. And then you're going to do it right. And then you're not going to do it right. And it's going to be okay. Like you're going to keep on as long as you're actively trying. I think as long as your kids feel safe, seen, and supported, and like, how can you do that? You just continuously show up for them and hold space for them and make sure that they know that they're loved all the time. Let them mess up, guide them through it, try to, whatever, like just love them at the end of the day. That's literally all that matters,
Yeah.
I
And if
think.
you're worried about being a good parent, that means you're going to be a really good parent. And that doesn't mean a
Yeah.
perfect parent or somebody who doesn't
No.
mess up, or like there's 1,000 times I've messed up. Like, even if we circle back to the beginning of our podcast, sometimes your hormones get the freaking best of you. You know what I mean? And you're going to say and do things that you wish you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
There's actually, yeah, there's a thing called
there's
like
no
good.
answer.
No, there's a thing, I'm sure I got it from TikTok, but like good enough parenting where it talks about like as long as you are like as long as your kids feel like safe, seen, supported, whatever, for like I believe it's like 60% of the time, they typically grow up to be like healthy adults. Please don't fact check me because I don't know. I'm not a woman in STEM, but it's just basically saying that like good enough parenting is doesn't mean that you get it all right, doesn't mean that it's perfect. It just means that like as long as you're showing up for them and connecting with them and reconnecting with them and trying to make sure that you're there for them, like that is the number one or like the biggest indicator that they are going to grow up and be like whatever emotionally mature or stable or.
Do you know who my absolute favorite person to ask parenting advice is from?
Who?
My kids.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I think the biggest thing, and of course, this does not compute unless your kids are a little bit older. Like a 2-year-old's
Right.
not going to, be able to effectively communicate these things. But opening that line of communication is the biggest things. Like, I actually get emotional having these conversations with my 10 and a half year old of where I'm like,
Yes.
I'm doing my best and I don't know what I'm doing, so I need your help a little bit. And like, I ask her, like, how did this make you feel? Or, I've literally asked both my kids before. Mostly a lot of the times, if I feel like I'm just doing a garbage job, right, is I'm just like, what, like, is there any way I can be a better mom to you? Or
Mm-hmm.
like, and like it makes me emotional. But I think even asking that question to our kids opens up this line of trust and communication to where even if in the moment they're like, no, you're amazing, they know I care. They know I want their feedback and I want their experiences and things like that. And again, it all does tie back to personal development and personal growth and mindset work and therapy and all of the things because we need to be healthy versions of ourselves to be able to take that feedback from our kids
Yeah.
because maybe someone's at a level where if your kid's saying something that you're doing wrong, you go on the defense, which you're human, it happens. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the biggest, honestly, if we have a foundational answer here, I think it's you work on yourself first. That's the way to be the best parent.
And then continue.
Because
And then
you can't,
continue.
yeah, you can't hold space for your kids' emotions and growth if you haven't held space for your own or been working on yourself.
We have those conversations too. And even with my oldest daughter, she's 8 now. There'll be times where, we'll talk about it or I won't even be asking in that moment. It'll be a random where she's like, yeah, but like you just said that, or it hurt my feelings because you said it that way or whatever it is. And I'll have to be like, oh, I'm sorry. My
Yeah.
like my tone, you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't realizing it's a good opportunity for them to see that like not everything is about them, because obviously we're very narcissistic when we're born. That's just normal, natural, like not narcissistic in like a negative way, but like we are only think about ourselves from like ages 1 to 7 or whatever it is. So it's like
Hmm.
we're the center of the world. And so a lot of times, obviously, our kids take that stuff in and they're like, why is my mom like, why is her tone of voice like that? Why is she snappy? Why is she moving stuff around so loudly? And so like I have to be like, oh, I'm glad that you told me that. Why, like this has nothing to do with you. I'm so sorry. Like if I was being snappy, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, but thank you for bringing that up to me. Yeah, it's just nice to have that like open. It feels good to me that I have that open. You know, I mean, there will still be
Yeah.
times I'm not perfect. There'll still be times like, well, you're doing this, and I'm like, that's just my face, or that's just how I talk, or that's because I don't have like I don't have a Miss Rachel voice. You know what I mean? Like I'm very much the way I'm talking to you right now is how I talk to my kids at like all the different age, like stages of their
Yeah.
lives. I don't want to mask around my kids. I don't want to have to mask around my husband. I don't want to have to be like, so that, you know what I mean? I just want to
And
be myself.
and you know what? It's like I say this thing about opening that line of communication with your kids and my kids feeling comfortable coming to me and stuff. But as a 31-year-old woman, I still struggle with that as the child,
Oh
right? Like
yeah.
my mom and I'm so proud of us. I'm so proud of her and like how our relationship has grown and our lines of communication that we did not necessarily have when I was growing up. And I just like that could make me cry just thinking of like the night and day difference. But it's still
Hmm.
really hard on both of our parts. Like there's times, again, gonna get some make sure my mom's cool with me saying this, but there's times where I struggle to communicate. And there's
Hmm.
also times on her end when I communicate and she gets on the defense. And it's like,
Hmm.
so but at the end of the day, like that's what matters is that communication. And
Hmm.
it doesn't sound silly, but it's like if you think about like what are the most cliche things that you could talk about mental health and therapy and things like that. And it's like communication, but like it's because it's the foundation of everything. And
Hmm.
it's something that I feel like we say or it could fall on deaf ears, but it's hard. It's so hard. And both parties need to be willing to
I was just about to say that's the
communicate.
thing with communication, because like I can talk to any of my friends or any of my people until I'm literally blue in the face. And it's like, well, are you guys communicating? Well, it doesn't, or, my friend could be like, well, I'm trying. Well, it doesn't really matter if it's falling on deaf ears. Communication is a two-way street. So it's
Uh-huh.
communicating and then there's perceiving. And so the other person has to be willing to, first off, receive it. And then you know what I mean? Like their perception is a lot of it too. And then the way that you're communicating and blah, blah, blah. So like communicating is just like one simple word to like
Yeah.
encompass all of this like confusing stuff. But yeah, at least with our kids, we're raising them hopefully to be open to it and then to be brave enough to bring it to the table and like
Well,
communicate.
and that's why who you surround yourself with
Matters.
really, really matters. Really matters.
Yeah, who
Cause
you
yeah.
surround yourself with, who you surround your kids with, like who are, you know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Like I'm so very picky about who is around my kids and around me, even in my space. Like I just have such a comfortable home setting for me now for the first time, literally, I think in my whole life. Like the last
Hmm.
six years has been the last year, probably more specifically, it's just been really, really, really good and comfortable. And like, yeah,
That makes
it's
me so
good.
happy for you.
Me too.
Yay for
So nice.
Gabriella.
Not even crying. I'm just so like I'm so good. After I
You're
just
like
had the
floating
worst
on a
week
cloud.
of my life.
It's over though. It's Sunday.
It's
We're
over
fine.
until 3 more weeks. I'm just
Well,
kidding.
it's so funny. Like this week, my kids didn't have school on Monday because of Indigenous Peoples Day.
Hmm.
And those weeks usually fly by, but I literally feel like this has been the longest week of our life. And not in a bad way. Like just
Yeah.
so much has happened in our own life, in my loved ones' lives, in friends' lives. Like the Yankees were in the playoffs, and that was like a
That
whole
was a
thing.
whole year in and of itself on your stories. I was like, poor
Dude,
Jason.
my husband is a diehard Yankees fan.
That's so
Diehard
cute.
Yankees fan. And the Yankees have not gone to the World Series since 2009, which is like before my husband and I even met.
Right. That was
And
only like 3 years ago, though, in my brain.
but now they're going to the World Series. And
That's
if
awesome.
I wish everyone could see the side of my husband that I see when the Yankees win a playoff game because
Oh my gosh.
it's amazing. Because Jason is very similar to Sean of like, if any of you have ever seen a picture or a video of my husband, you just think he's mad. And he's not. Like he is the sweetest, kindest. He is quiet, like
Yeah.
not with us, but like in general.
Yeah.
But it's just like when those Yankees are on, it's like the little boy comes out and it's the
It's so cute.
cutest, funniest, but also most stressful thing ever.
Yeah.
It's a
I love
lot.
it.
All right. I think that's I think that's our episode for this week. 3 in a
Yeah.
row. We're
I
kind of
forgot everything I just said. I feel like I just blacked out. I'm gonna listen to this back and be like, oh man, I'm insightful. You
I
are smart.
am Brene Brown.
The
Wait,
protege.
an actual really hilarious thing is our tattoos say I am, right? So a running joke that we have, Gabrielle and I, is like whenever we're going through something, we just go, I am blank.
Yeah.
I
I
remember
am her protege, honestly.
I was putting together this literal desk that I'm using right now. Remember that? I was putting this together one time and I was like, I am a strong, independent woman.
Literally. Oh, it's so dumb.
Oh
I
my
love
gosh.
it.
Anyway, okay. Well, thank you for tuning into episode 3. Will we have an episode 4 next Monday? We'll
Yes,
see.
I'm
Yes?
claiming it.
Okay. All
Manifesting.
right.
I'm manifesting every
All
Monday.
right. Well, just our little reminders here is we do have an Instagram page for our podcast. It's alive and well dot ish dot pod. Got that wrong on the last one. And
Oh,
yep. And then if you would like to subscribe or follow or leave comments on our Spotify or Apple podcast or YouTube, we love them so, so much. Like literally anytime one of us sees a comment, we send it to
we're
the
like,
other
ah!
one and we cry a little bit. So
Yeah,
thank you
good
for
tears.
being here. We hope that you got something out of this and have an amazing week, friends.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.